Let's talk Benny and Selena. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. Okay, I have a highly requested video. A lot of people have asked me to talk about Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco. I've always been a fan of Selena Gomez. I actually, back in my beauty blogging days, I used to do like a lot of like Selena Gomez inspired makeup tutorials and things like that. I actually got told a lot back in the day that I looked a lot like a blonde version of Selena Gomez. But before I get into this, I want to get into my usual disclaimers. First of all, I don't know anybody in this video. I don't know anybody personally, so I have no idea what these people are like behind closed doors. I am simply basing my analysis on the public images and public personas and the information available to everybody about these celebrities and public figures. And honestly, at the end of the day, what I'm talking about isn't even about the celebrity or public figure. It's about the lessons we can take from their public images that we can take into our own lives so we can have happier, healthier lives and relationships. So let's get into Benny and Selena. Benny and Selena have had kind of an interesting like roller coaster image in the public as far as like how people have felt about their relationship. I feel like when Selena first started dating Benny and like they went public with their relationship, there were a lot of people that were against it. There was a lot of drama. Interesting that I kept hearing about the way that Benny was supposedly exploiting his kid on social media. To be totally honest, I'm not going to dive into that too much because it's really complicated. According to the internet, he doesn't have a kid. Some people are saying that this kid that he was allegedly exploiting was a nephew. According to the internet, he doesn't have any kids and he talks as if he doesn't have any kids. So if he does have one, that's weird. There was some controversy around him posting, I guess it was a unclothed photo of this child. It had to be removed and the story is still out there, but a lot of it I guess has been scrubbed from the internet. I agree, that's very suspicious, but without a lot of information, and because I wasn't following things back then, I mean obviously if it's true, it's creepy, I acknowledge, but there was all that drama going on originally when Selena and Benny sort of went public as a relationship. Then when they got engaged, it seemed like there was a shift in the narrative and Benny was doing a lot of podcasts and interviews and was talking a lot about Selena, but also talking in a lot of very like self-help, evolved male relationship terminology. And there were a lot of women that are like, oh my God, I get it now. Like he seems like such a mature, evolved man. And I love the way he talks about her and everything. So it was like the shift happened and people started putting him up on a pedestal. I didn't really pay much attention to them when they were dating, so I didn't really have much of an opinion about it back then. When they announced they were engaged and, you know, everybody was sort of like, oh my God, he seems so evolved and everything, I was starting to see some red flags. Not that I didn't see them before, but like I wasn't paying attention to them before. So when I started paying attention to them and everything, I was like, I don't know if he's really as evolved as people think that he is. Honestly, like their relationship, I do think is an opportunity to bring up some important life lessons, especially dating lessons that I think women need to hear. The way that Benny talks about Selena, it gets to a point where it feels performative and it feels over the top and it starts to feel phony. I went into this when I talked about Taylor and Travis, but I think this is a really important lesson that women have to learn. I had to learn this lesson the hard way, so I want to impart this on other women. There are gonna be men that are gonna hide you. They're not gonna post you publicly. They're not gonna tell people you're together. It's probably gonna be under the guise of privacy and being a private person and not wanting to share everything with everybody, right? And that could feel really painful as a woman when you want the person that you're in a relationship with to want to shout from the rooftops that they're in love with you. Like you want him to declare his commitment for you. And it can be really painful when someone doesn't. There are other guys who are going to scream it from the rooftops. They're gonna tell everybody they wanna be with you. They're gonna tell everybody how great you are. They're gonna show you off all the time. Sometimes that's gonna be a combination of love bombing so that you think that your relationship is a lot further along so they can take advantage of you. And or it's because they get something from publicly talking about you. You know, whether it be, you know, clout or status or something, whether it be because you have status or whether it just be because maybe you're so amazing and it makes them look better. You know, sometimes that's just sweet that the guy thinks that you're that great that he wants to show you off. Sometimes it can be for more sinister means. It can be because he's trying to take advantage of the things he gets from you and like the clout that he gets from you or some kind of validation he gets from showing you off or something like that. It can be good and bad reasons, right? And that's why I think the conversation of like, is your man posting you a lot or is your man not posting you at all? Like, I think that those conversations get very there's a lot of nuance in those conversations. However, one of the things, and I talked about this with Taylor and Travis, if you're a woman who is maybe used to the men you're with being more private and not sharing you as much, when you get into a relationship with a man who wants to share you all the time, that wants to shout from the rooftops they're with you, that can feel very validating because you felt hidden in the past. Now you feel validated. But you have to look at, why is this man so publicly sharing that he's with you and talking about you? Because sometimes that can just be because he's just excited that he's with you, and it can all be for very good reasons. It can also be because he is trying to take advantage of you and wants to make you think that he's more serious, or he's being very performative because it makes him look good. There are a lot of women out there who find a man more appealing when he's in a relationship. So there are men that will post their girlfriend, especially if she's amazing, because he knows that there's going to be other women that are going to be like, well, if he's that great. And look, I don't think much of women that do that target men who are in relationships, but it happens, okay? I'm not endorsing this by any means, but it does happen. It could just be because of the clout that he gets. I'm not necessarily saying that, like, I mean, I definitely think that Travis Kelce is guilty of this with Taylor. I think, you know, again, she was much more private when she was in a relationship with Joe, and then with someone like Travis who like wants that stuff to be out there publicly all the time. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, well, Joe kept her hidden away, but Travis is willing to like love her openly out loud. I see it more as like Joe kept things more private, and I think Taylor wanted that too. With Travis, I think she's willing to be more public, but I definitely think that he's willing to share so much of their life publicly because it gives him clout and status, and he's making money off of the relationship. I don't think it's because he just like loves her so much. I think he's absolutely using her. Now with the Benny and Selena thing, I think it's maybe a little bit less obvious, but I definitely think that when Benny starts getting into this very, he tends to be very performative in the way that he talks about his love for Selena. And again, I'm not discouraging men from loving the woman in their life out loud, because I think that can be a good thing, but I think you have to be really careful about paying attention to if he's doing it out of a performance or doing it for attention or for clout or something like that, and not doing it because it's genuine. I don't know if it's genuine because I'm not in his head, but the way that Benny's doing it does feel very performative. My own experience, when I was very young, I'm not proud of this, but when I was very young, I was underage, I got into a relationship with a man who I did not know at the time was married. When I found out he was married, I was still young and dumb and naive, and I didn't leave. I should have. I didn't, because he fed me all the stories in the world about how I was the one, and I fell into the fairy tale romance, whatever. But because of the circumstances, our relationship had to be very private and very hidden. Now, should I have known the signs of a man who is hiding you and keeping you as a side chick? Yeah, I probably should have known. I was young. I was naive. He was my first love. I was stupid. It was a mistake. It wasn't something that should have happened. But that's what happened. But I kind of got used to the idea of being hidden. Later on, I ended up in a relationship with a guy where we were kind of in the same field, and him being in a relationship with me was very good for the status of his career. I was a woman that at the time a lot of men were trying to date, and he ended up dating me. It was very status of him to be in a relationship with me. So he basically was, you know, told everybody, was making a big deal about it. It was a very like public thing. And because I had been kept hidden in a past relationship, I felt like, ooh, this man must really love me because he's so willing to tell everybody that he's with me and shout from the rooftops that we're together. I took that as a good sign. I didn't realize until later on that it really wasn't because he cared about me. It was because of what he got, status, the validation, the clout, you know, just in our own little world for being in a relationship with me. And in fact, he didn't even really love me. He didn't even really like me that much. And then when the relationship fell apart, I felt so blindsided because it was like, but you were telling everyone we were together, you were shouting from the rooftops, and then of course he breaks up with me, and then like I'm faced with like everybody knowing that we were together and we broke up because he had told everybody. Like, it was a messy situation. I say this because I do think that how much of your relationship you share, how much you don't share, how much you share online, how much you don't, I think that's something that should be worked out together as a couple. But I want women to be really aware that there's good reasons for keeping your relationship private and bad reasons for keeping your relationship private. There's good reasons for being very public about your relationship, and there's bad reasons for being very public about your relationship. And I think we have to look deeper than just, is he posting about me and sharing about me and telling people about me, or is he not? You have to look at the overall relationship and not get too caught up in, ooh, he doesn't post me, that's bad. Ooh, he does post me, that's good. We need to get out of that mentality, because again, there's good and bad reasons why people can do these different things. That's why when I see like a Benny Blanco going on about Selena, going on about his relationship with Selena, it starts to feel very performative, and it starts to feel very, he's relishing in the clout and attention that he gets from dating somebody of Selena's, you know, public status, because he's been a behind the scenes guy for so long. But he's also someone who, based on some of the stuff I've seen of like his past social media posts and stuff like that, is someone who, he dresses for attention. He posts like very controversial, edgy things because he likes the attention. He obviously loves attention. So now being in a very public relationship with someone like Selena, who publicly is a lot more famous than him, even though they've both been in the music industry for a long time, and I think they both have a lot of status in the music industry, but public image wise, Selena is much more famous than Benny is. And he's relishing in that. And I'm not saying that he's definitely using her, but I do think he's really loving the attention, and his performative way of talking about her and sharing about their relationship and everything, it's feeling like it could be less about how much he cares about her and more about how much he loves the attention. And I just want women to be aware of that, because I don't want to discourage men from, you know, being, you know, openly loving to their partner. But I do think as women, we have to be cautious and not automatically think that, oh, if he's talking about us publicly and saying how much he loves me publicly, that that's automatically a good thing. You have to look a level deeper and be like, okay, but is he showing up in our relationship in a loving way? And one of the things about Benny Blanco and the way he talks about Selena, there's a difference between a man talking about how great your relationship is and how much he loves the woman in his life. It starts to feel very, I want to brag about what a great boyfriend I am to Selena, and he'll throw in how great their relationship is, but it feels very braggy. Like, it feels very like, well, when she comes to me about this, how I handle it is this, and it's so easy. And I get torn, because I do think that we do need more men, and I say this all the time, that we need more healthy male leadership in our society. So we do need men that are good role models. But I also think there's that fine line of showing up and talking about how good your relationship is and how healthy your relationship is, but also like bragging about, look at what a great guy I am, look at how great I am. That's where it starts to slip into performative. It starts to slip into more of like, hey, I'm so great, look at how much I love my wife. That's where I think Benny is. Like, I think there's some people that interpret it as, oh, he just loves her so much. When I watch it, it doesn't feel like he's just genuinely showing up and being like, I love her, we have a great relationship, and just trying to like be the example. It almost feels like he wants so much credit for being such a great guy, and like, ooh, that's a bad sign. When a guy needs constant credit for like what a great guy he is showing up in a relationship, that's going to be exhausting, and it's going to get draining. And he shows a lot of signs of that. And I think that that's where I've always felt a little uncomfortable with how Benny specifically talks about their relationship. I did watch a podcast interview, I think it was Jay Shetty, with Selena and Benny. I want to give a little bit of credit here, because I know Selena has talked about being very introverted, and I don't know if maybe she likes that Benny does most of the talking so that she doesn't have to talk as much. I don't know. But it really did feel like Benny needed to make the whole thing all about him. And maybe he was jumping in because she didn't want to talk as much, because that's more her personality, and his personality is more outgoing. I don't know. I can give them the benefit of the doubt there. But it really did feel like he wanted to take over the moment, and he wanted it to be about him, and he wanted to talk, and he wanted to jump in, and he wanted to interrupt, and he wanted it to be all about him. It didn't feel like a nice balance of like them having a conversation and talking about their relationship. It felt like it was the Benny show. And you know, maybe Selena's happy with that, because she's tired of always having to be the one who talks and things like that. But I don't know, the whole thing did feel uncomfortable to watch, is like, because it felt like Benny needed to be the center of attention and needed to be the one talking all the time. I do want to make a note about Selena, and I'm usually very vocal with calling out female celebrities and their plastic surgery because I think it's incredibly damaging what all of this plastic surgery we're seeing with celebrities and influencers and things like that. Like, I think it's incredibly damaging what it's doing to people. So normally I don't have any problem talking about that. With Selena, I find it trickier because I do know that Selena has had a lot of health problems in the past. As much as I absolutely think Selena has done too much as far as getting work done, it's hard to know if some of the things that are going on with her are connected to like some of her illnesses, or if it's connected to having too much work, or if she's getting the work because she's trying to counteract some of the issues she has with some of her illnesses, because she has had a lot of health problems. And I do want to take the moment to say that, like, when I talk about the dangers of plastic surgery and how I think that, you know, the normalization of plastic surgery is so dangerous. Like, I mean, what the Kardashians are doing and, you know, what all of these celebrities are doing, I think is just absolutely horrible. I do want to make a note that I do still think that for people that have, you know, illness or injury or, you know, some kind of quality of life deformities, cleft palates, breathing obstructions, things like that, or, you know, people that have illness and their bodies have kind of deteriorated in certain ways and they're just trying to get back to a normal, I think those are legitimate reasons to look at plastic surgery. If it's just like, hey, I want to get the same nose as like every other celebrity, no, I don't think that that's good. If it's like I want to reconstruct my face because I feel like I need to look like this other person, no, I don't think that that's healthy. I don't think that's safe. I don't think it's empowering. But with someone like a Selena, it's hard to know where that line is. It's hard to know because, you know, I know when she talks, it's almost like she can't move her jaw. And I don't know if that's because she's had too much work done, or I've seen some people say that that could be a side effect of some of her illnesses. I've tried looking it up and there isn't a clear cut answer to that, but I just want to say that I give Selena a little bit more leeway than other celebrities. I don't think that Selena ever needed to get work done. I think Selena was gorgeous. I would have loved to have seen Selena naturally grow into her features because I've always thought she was beautiful, and I don't know if the work she's getting done is like the pressure that she's had done in Hollywood. She does look like she's had way too much done, but I also don't know how much of that is just her trying to cope with the illness that she has. And so I don't want to go at her as hard because, again, I don't think that the normalization of plastic surgery among celebrities is a good thing. I think it's quite dangerous. But I also do think that, you know, some of these surgeries, they do have, you know, some legitimate uses, illness or injury or, you know, a quality of life issue or something like that. With Selena, again, I wish she hadn't done so much and gotten so much work done. I think that's a little bit different than, like, you know, say the Kardashians, who are basically just like reconstructing themselves to fit a beauty trend. Now, one of my more controversial takes that I have that seems to get men all riled up on the internet every time I talk about this, which kind of shocks me because it shouldn't be that controversial. And in this case, I'm talking about Benny Blanco, but I have talked about this in terms of like your Travis Kelce and, you know, some other male celebrities. Men who dress very attention grabbing. Men who dress to be the center of attention. They wear really wild outfits, bright colors. If you're a woman who's looking to date a straight man, the more flamboyant he dresses, if he dresses to be the center of attention, red flag. Either he needs to be the center of attention all the time, which as a woman, that's gonna be exhausting, and or he's actually looking to attract men. And I've heard all the arguments. For some reason, this triggers men online like you would not believe. I've heard all the arguments. Oh, well, male animals, like male birds, are always more colorful. Have you heard of peacocking? First of all, peacocking is a pickup artist term. So if a guy is dressing very, like, you know, flamboyantly, very attention grabbing because he's peacocking, he's a pickup artist, and you don't want to have anything to do with him anyway. He's gonna be a scumbag. Yes, pickup artists are scumbags. That's a red flag in itself. When it comes to the whole argument of like, you know, well, male birds are more colorful and this and that, we're humans, we're not birds. The man is never supposed to be like the one that gets all the attention for how he looks and how he dresses. I believe it was Freddie Prinze Jr. I don't know if he said this originally, but I remember Freddie Prinze Jr. saying this about him and Sarah Michelle Gellar on red carpets, where he said something like that he's the setting, she's the jewel. And I even remember, I think it was Matthew Broderick saying one time about like dressing for red carpets with Sarah Jessica Parker is like he's just there to wear the tux, she's the showpiece, right? I heard a woman say this, I don't remember where I heard this quote originally, but like, if you remember what a guy wore because he was wearing something that was so unique and different and whatever that you remember what he wore, bad sign. It's a bad sign. If you're a straight woman and you're looking to date a straight man, bad sign. You don't want a man that dresses flamboyantly for attention. You know, Benny Blanco is like this. Whatever, everything he wears, I'm like, this guy is either in the closet or he just like constantly needs to be the center of attention, or both. Travis Kelce's the same way. What he wears, I'm like, I just do not believe a straight man would dress like him. Patrick Mahomes falls into that category, and I don't know if that's just like Kelsey's influence or what, I don't know. You know, you've got like Cam Newton, who looks like the Mad Hatter most of the time, like, and all these guys are questionable, but they also need to be the center of attention all the time. And when it comes to fashion and style, and it's funny how when I say stuff like that, like, oh my god, the pushback I get from guys, first of all, it's crazy when I'll say something like men that dress for attention and dress in clothes that like need to be the center of attention all the time, like really flashy and everything, like are red flags. I'll get guys that'll be like, oh, so we shouldn't even shower. It's like, that falls under the category of like when a woman goes to a guy and is just sort of like, hey, would you please stop following half-naked women on the internet? And he's like, I'm just gonna delete the whole internet or whatever. It's like, it's the guys that have to dress for attention, the peacocking and stuff. They're always the ones that are so over dramatic, and it's gonna be exhausting. Like, ladies, you do not want to deal with that. I also get guys that are like, oh, so I can't look fly. Look, I always say, like, look to the classics, okay? You can be a very well-dressed man, but also not dress in a way that is like, please pay attention to me. It's the difference between like a Benny Blanco and like a Cary Grant. You know what I mean? Like, just like classic looks, just classic, clean, well-fitted, occasion appropriate. Like, honestly, for men, fashion should just be very simple and straightforward. Just classic looks, and I don't even really care how expensive it is. And it's so funny because when I say this, and I've said this before in other videos, or I made a video a while back that men that dress like really notice me, pay attention to me, like bright colors, crazy outfits and stuff, are very much in their feminine energy because they want to be the feminine, because the feminine is the one that wants the attention, whereas the masculine is more like the setting, whereas the feminine is more like the jewel. And the number of men that are like, you're just jealous because I look better than you. You're just jealous because you don't want a man who looks better than you. Like, that is like the most sassy man response that you could possibly have. And you're not defending yourself the way that you think you are. That's part of it though, because it's like, as a woman, like, I would never look at a man who was dressed really flamboyantly and think I need to compete with that man. But I would be like, okay, this guy clearly needs to be the center of attention all the time, and I don't really want to be with a guy who wants to be the center of attention all the time. That said, I don't see him as competition, but like, why would a straight man ever think that a woman was in competition with him to look good? That's weird to me, because like, we're not competing for anything unless you're secretly interested in men and you're trying to compete with me for the attention of men. Which goes to my point that they're either need to be the center of attention or they're in the closet, or both. Benny's outfits alone to me are a red flag. Okay, there's rumors that Benny Blanco might be gay, he might be bisexual, I don't know. I couldn't find any official confirmed rumors, but I did find a clip that somebody had. He was on like some kind of a podcast thing or whatever. The clip is online, about if he were to engage in, I'm trying to be careful of my wording to not get flagged, if he were engaged in a sexual act with a man, that he would know how to please him. And I mean, he was talking to a comic. I was a comic for many years, so like, I get the humor, but I'm like, it's been my experience, again, working as a professional comedian. I was a professional comedian for many, many years. I've worked with a lot of comedians. It's been my experience that guys that joke a lot about being gay, like as a joke, like, I'm just joking, I'm not really gay, but I'm joking about it. A lot of them are deeply in the closet and trying to fight it. I've seen some clips online of Benny Blanco kind of like joking about being gay as like a joke, but like I like to say, you know, not every joke is 100% true, but usually behind most jokes there's some truth behind it. So now, Selena Gomez is an example of a phenomenon. I mentioned this in, I think it was my original Taylor and Travis video, but I think it's a really important message to get out there for women, because women in their 30s are the most vulnerable. That is the most likely time that I've noticed that women settle. The fact that Selena Gomez, just a little bit before she started dating Benny Blanco, had kind of made some statements that she really wanted to be a mom, and you know, she didn't know how that was actually going to work, but she, you know, she was open to adopting, and that she wanted to be a mom and stuff like that. A woman in her 30s, her biological clock tends to amp up a lot. That's very often a time when a woman decides, like, you know what, I just want to meet a guy and settle down and have a family, and I'm just going to settle for whatever's in front of me. The female version of the cab light theory. I fell into that. It's how I got into a very short marriage and a messy divorce, because I got to, you know, my mid-30s and was like, you know what, it's now or never, and if I'm gonna have a family, I'm just gonna have to settle. It's not always that a woman settles for a bad guy. Sometimes she does, and sometimes she settles for a guy who's a massive red flag. But more often what happens is the woman settles for the guy who's like, well, he's good enough. No, I think every woman has to really ask herself if good enough is really good enough. And you could make the argument that it's like, you know, at a certain point, maybe she thinks that it's more important to get married and have a family than it is to wait for someone who really is her true match. I would argue that that's usually a recipe for disaster, because you're gonna end up in a relationship where there's gonna be resentment because you are not getting everything that you really needed in a relationship. And again, when I talk about like compromising and settling, I'm not talking about like sort of little insignificant things. I'm talking about like compromising on the big things. You know, maybe the guy doesn't like the same music that you like, or maybe you guys don't agree on the same movies, but like you have the same values. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is compromising on things that are truly important. When you do that, you end up compromising in ways that could potentially hurt your children, your future children. Something that I don't think gets talked about enough, because we focus a lot on women, whether they want to be moms or they don't want to be moms, or, you know, they want to stay child-free or they're child-free by choice. There's one group of women that really doesn't get talked about enough, and that is the woman who deeply wanted to be a mother, deeply wants a family, wants to be a mom, wants to have kids, but doesn't want to have kids with a man who isn't going to be a good husband and father. And we don't talk enough about the massive, massive shortage of men in the world today that will be good husbands and fathers. The bar is so low. It angers me a lot because it forces women into this choice of either not being a mother or having to settle for having kids with somebody who you know is not really gonna be husband and father material. The woman gets shamed for whichever choice she picks. She's gonna be shamed for not choosing better when she does have kids with a man who doesn't turn out to be a great husband and father. But if she chooses not to have kids because, you know, there just aren't good husbands and fathers, at least not enough of them. I'm not saying they don't exist, but they're rare, and they shouldn't be. They should be a lot more common, but they're not, which, I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons for that. The lack of healthy male role models is definitely one of them. She gets shamed for not having kids and for being childless, when that wasn't really her choice. Like, she wasn't choosing to be childless, but she was choosing to not settle and have kids with someone who isn't gonna be a good husband and father. And I know there's a lot of guys who are gonna be like, well, women's expectations are too high, which is ridiculous, because for most women, the bar is in hell. The idea of a man showing up, and I mean, I got a lot of crap for this in my last video that I made, but a man showing up and providing financially, fully providing financially for the family, I mean, that should be bare minimum. That should be absolutely bare minimum. I don't think a woman should ever be required to be a mother and have to work in order to earn a living, because that's ridiculous, because we would never expect men to have to do both, but we expect women to have to do both. That gets into a whole other conversation, but I bring this up because I do really feel like Selena is with Benny because she's at that age where her biological clock is going crazy, and I think she knows, like, this is probably not gonna be a good thing. I mean, he's got a lot of red flags as far as like all the jokes he makes online, the attention grabbing stuff, the weird sexual humor. He's got some really questionable situations with kids and things like that. Like, I think him having kids, I don't think it's a good idea, but I think Selena is in a place where she's like, you know what, the clock is ticking. You know, this man is here. I honestly, I think it's the same reason why Taylor is settling for Travis Kelce. And yes, I do think that Taylor is settling for Travis Kelce. Women settling, you're most vulnerable in your 30s. That's why I want women to be aware, because again, I ended up in a short marriage and a messy divorce. You know, I don't want to sound like I'm just like trashing my ex-husband, because it's not like he was a horrible person. I could give you a list of his faults, but you know, it's not like he was some kind of, you know, terrible human or anything. But he was not going to show up as the husband and father that you know, I believe a child deserves. And I'm glad that I got out of that situation before I brought kids into it. But I settled for that and was going to go in that direction because I was like, well, it's now or never. It's now or never. And women in their 30s tend to be the most susceptible to this, which is why I really think that that's what's going on with Selena. And I think it goes to show, I mean, look at Rihanna. You know, I mean, I did a video about her and A$AP Rocky. I think she settled for him. She wanted kids. She wanted a family. You know, I think she settled. I absolutely think she did. And, you know, these women are billionaires. They're looking at the world and being like, hey, look at all that I have, but I still want to be a mom. And I'm in my 30s and it might be now or never. And so they're settling for these guys that, you know, should not be reproducing. I think this is a good opportunity to remind women that I understand the desire to be in a relationship. I understand the desire to, you know, be married, to have a family. Like, I can understand that. I can. Believe me, I've made some mistakes out of that desire myself. But settling is never going to be worth it. Being in a bad relationship is never going to be better than being single. That's where I think you have to... I want to take this opportunity with the Selena Benny conversation to just remind women of that. Like, being in a bad relationship will never be better than being single. One of the big indicators that Selena Gomez settled for Benny Blanco is because it seems like Selena pursued him. Now, not in a necessarily like aggressive way, but it seems like she moved the relationship along faster than he did, which is a bad sign. And I tell women all the time, do not pursue a man, okay? It seemed like Benny was just asking Selena to hang out and she thought it was a date, so they showed up and she's thinking it's a date and he's kind of like, I didn't know it was a date. Like, and the fact that he's talking about it like that indicates that he wants everybody to know that like she thought they were on a date but he didn't, because like he's trying to play like I didn't think of her that way kind of thing. So he's trying to make it very clear that like she was interested in him first. She apparently said I love you first. Benny has joked about the fact that Selena would come to his house and like be like 20 minutes or half hour early for their dates, which I'm like, why was she even going to his house on a date? Like, why is she going to him? And then she's showing up early, which is giving desperation. Like, these are all signs that like Selena's biological clock is ticking and she's like, she's in desperation mode, right? So she's picking Benny because she's in desperation mode. I say this all the time and I wish I could get this through to people. Like, I wish I could take every woman, just like hold her head and look her in the eyes and say this. So I'm going to do it now. Ladies, do not make the first move. Do not pursue men. I wouldn't even suggest you even act interested in a guy, to be totally honest. And I know that's an extreme and that's my ice queen coming out, but like, you need to make a man pursue you. If he's not pursuing you, he's not your man. Now, people love to throw out that there's some statistic, I don't even know how accurate it is, it doesn't shock me, but that it's something like if the woman makes the first move and pursues the man, that she's like, I don't know, like 90% more likely to get married or something like that. I don't know the exact number, but like it's something ridiculous like that. That doesn't shock me, but that's also not a good statistic, okay? Because men will absolutely take advantage of low-hanging fruit. You're the low-hanging fruit. He doesn't have to climb to the top of the tree to get you, okay? So they will take advantage of the low-hanging fruit, but they will never truly appreciate you because they didn't have to work for you. Men only appreciate that which they had to earn. Women only appreciate that which they did not have to earn, which is why men have to do the pursuing. A lot of women are like, I don't want to play games. It's not games. This is literally our biology, okay? We're talking about a heterosexual couple. A man has to do the pursuing. It has to happen that way because he will never truly appreciate you. And I don't even care if you come to me, I've been married for 50 years and I made the first move. He doesn't truly appreciate you. He does not appreciate you because he did not have to work for you. And he will have no problem chasing the woman that he really wants, even if he's with you. That's unfortunately the deal. Men only appreciate that which they had to earn. Women only appreciate that which they were not expected to earn. That's just the reality of things. I know people are gonna argue it's not fair. I don't care if it's not fair. That's the reality of things. So for a man, he needs to feel like he achieved something. He needs to feel like he earned whatever it is that he's getting. So if he doesn't feel like he had to work to earn the woman's attention, her time, her anything, if he didn't feel like he had to work to earn you, he will never appreciate you. If you make it easy for him, and I'm not talking about being like rude to him or mean to him, or I'm not talking about being a bad person. I'm just talking about not being easy and available, and definitely not pursuing him. The more effort he has to put into winning you, the more he's going to appreciate you when he does win you over. Here's something that men are not going to want to tell you, and I don't even think that they understand it consciously, but if you come to him easily, in his mind, he's gonna think that you'll go to any man easily. So he's always gonna think, even if you're like, no, it's just you. Like, if you put out on a first date with a guy, even if you know that like you never do this, it's not something you normally do, you were just so crazy about him and it was him and it wasn't just not something that you normally do, he's still gonna think that you do that with everyone, because he didn't actually have to do anything to earn you, so that no guy has to do much to earn you. That's what they think. Even if guys will tell you that's not what they think, that's what they think. They will not appreciate you if they don't have to earn you. Now, women are the opposite. If you make a woman have to earn your love and earn your affection, she's not going to appreciate it. Think about it like this. If a woman tells a man that she really would love if he got her flowers once a week, and he gets her flowers once a week, lovely, she might like them. But she had to tell him, which is her having to do something in order to get them. She's never going to appreciate it as much as if a guy shows up at her door with flowers, because she didn't ask, she didn't mention it. Women are going to appreciate that a million times more. Guys are not the same way. If you just surprise a guy with something and he hasn't done anything to earn it, he might say thank you, he might be like, ooh, I can take advantage of this woman, but he's never going to truly appreciate it, because men only appreciate that which they had to earn. Women only appreciate that which they were not expected to earn. So if a woman has to earn your love and your affection, it might kick in her like competitive edge, which is not going to make her fall in love with you. It's going to block her from actually feeling love for you, because she's in like probably in a trauma bond, or she's in competitive mode or something. Whereas for a man, he needs to feel like he earned a woman's love. So if you as a woman are like pursuing him, you're making things easy for him, and again, I'm not talking about being difficult as in being like rude or cruel or anything like that, but I'm just saying, if you're making his life easier, he's not going to appreciate you. And he will absolutely try to earn the love and affection of a woman who he wants. So if he's not trying to earn your love and affection, you're just not the woman he wants. Stop chasing him, okay? I know it may be quote unquote successful because it may end up in marriage. It's not gonna end up in a happy marriage. It might be in a long lasting marriage, but it's gonna be because it's people who settled. Never pursue a man. The fact that Benny keeps emphasizing that, oh, he didn't think it was a date, but Selena thought that their first date was a date. Selena said, I love you first. He made a joke about like, oh, Selena proposed to me, which it was a joke, not real, because then they explained the proposal and how he proposed, so that wasn't real. But the fact that he made that joke, again, most jokes, there's a truth behind it. That's his insecurity, and he wants people to know, oh, Selena Gomez pursued me. That's an ego thing. And people I think are mistaking it for like, oh, he's just loving her out loud, when it's like, he's actually trying to make himself look better, and it's a subtle degrading of her. Like, look at how great I am that Selena Gomez was so desperate to get me. And I think some of that has to do with the fact that he is not conventionally attractive, and I think he knows that. He's also, I mean, look at the way he dresses. Like, he clearly wants to be the center of attention. There's an ego thing there. I feel bad for her, but you know, I think that this is a bad scenario all around. And this brings me to, I think this is the last topic I want to touch on. I've fallen for this in the past, and this is a big lesson that I want to teach women. So Benny Blanco is not conventionally attractive. Selena Gomez is conventionally attractive. And I will tell you that in my own experience throughout my life, I have generally dated guys who were not conventionally attractive. Now, look, I still stand by the fact that I don't think that physical attractiveness should be the determining factor in a relationship. I think there's so much more. However, I fell into the mindset when I was younger that, well, if I date the guy who's not as conventionally attractive, who has fewer options, who women aren't pursuing, who isn't, you know, getting a lot of dates or anything, like, I kind of had this, like, I don't know, like Beauty and the Beast, Frog Prince mentality, like diamond in the rough. I'll find the man in him that like other women didn't see. So I would think, well, he's gonna appreciate me. I had to learn this lesson, unfortunately. Those guys will make your life a living nightmare. They will. So dating a not conventionally attractive man as a conventionally attractive woman is a recipe for disaster. Again, I fell for it. I thought it would end up being a smart move, because you think like, okay, I'll see the parts of him that like other women haven't seen, and he'll appreciate me. I fell for all those narratives. Unfortunately, it's a recipe for disaster. Because what usually happens is the guy's insecurities will end up making him try to drag you down to his level. The digs, the insults, he will destroy your self-esteem like you would not believe, because he doesn't feel good enough for you. Even if you are showing up in a way that is very supportive and loving of him, even if you're not critical of his looks, you can show up as like the best girlfriend ever. Doesn't matter. He will try to tear you down. He will not allow you to have any self-confidence whatsoever, because in his mind, he's convinced if you have self-confidence, then you'll leave him. So he's got to tear you down to keep you with him. In my experience, not conventionally attractive men, they will break your self-esteem like no one else. It's unbelievable. They oftentimes get very controlling because there's a jealousy aspect to it. Like in their mind, they're always thinking that like you're gonna get swooped up by somebody else. So they've got to control you to keep you with them. A lot of times there's isolation that happens because again, in their mind, you're out of their league. Even if you're not treating them that way, in their mind, you're out of their league, so that they're gonna make sure that like they can keep a hold of you while tearing you down. I mean, in my experience, those are some of the most psychologically damaging relationships that you can be in. Honestly, even to this day, like I still don't like the idea of disregarding somebody simply because of their physical appearance, because I do still want to believe there's good in everybody, and I don't necessarily think that for anyone really, but when I'm thinking about dating a man, that like how he looks physically should even be the most important thing about him by any means. Unfortunately, I have learned the hard way too many times that when you date a man who, I mean, whether or not even that he is conventionally attractive or unattractive or anything, if he doesn't think he's attractive, he will do a number on you like you will not believe. He will not treat you well. He will treat you terribly. Now, I will admit, I haven't exactly dated a lot of guys that were like massively conventionally attractive. So I can't sit here and say that I think that they're gonna treat you well. I mean, I think it depends on the person, but I would say like especially guys that are like not conventionally attractive but want to be the center of attention all the time, like say a Benny Blanco, who clearly dresses like he wants to be the center of attention all the time, the way he talks in interviews and stuff, like this guy is like relishing in the attention and the spotlight. The fact that he's in a relationship with somebody who is seen as being very conventionally attractive, I think he's really gonna do a number on her self-esteem. I've seen it happen too many times because I've fallen into it, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be just like attractiveness level, but I've seen this with guys who I've talked about in other videos about like the way that men get obsessed with like height and things like that. I've seen it just with guys who maybe they're attractive but they're just not very tall, where they hold this like chip on their shoulder for like not being tall enough. Like I've actually been on dates with guys, it's happened to me a couple times, where a guy I'll be on a date with a guy who's not even necessarily like short, but like just not tall. And he'll actually be like, yeah, women don't really want to date me because I'm not tall. While I'm on a date with them, when it's like, dude, like you're on a date, like you thought that was a smart thing to say on a date, but they do because they want the victimhood, they want the sympathy, and they want to play the victim. They're trying to put your guard down so that you'll feel bad for them, so you'll do for them. Like it's a manipulation tactic, and I wish I knew that sooner. Even as someone who doesn't think that physical attractiveness should be a determining factor in who you're in a relationship with, I have seen a lot of people that say like, you know, women who love, you know, unattractive men are giving men the grace that men would never show women, and that's the ability to be loved while not being physically attractive. And I mean, I think that that is true. Now, I do think that women who are more physically attractive can also get treated like crap in relationships. Like I do not believe at all that it is only unattractive women that get treated badly in relationships. I've seen absolutely stunning, beautiful women be treated horribly in relationships, but I think that attractive women are even more vulnerable to, if you are a very attractive woman and you date a less attractive man. I've seen it too many times where that guy is really gonna try to tear you down and destroy your self-esteem, and it's heartbreaking. I've been through it. I've seen other women go through it. I've seen women comment their stories about that happening to them. And this whole Benny and Selena thing, I'm like, you know, again, I don't want to look at somebody who's not conventionally attractive and, you know, assume that they're a bad person. I've just seen it too many times, and Benny is showing too many signs of the type of guy that is, again, the fact that he's sort of relishing in the fact that like, oh Selena was kind of into him first, and Selena was kind of pursuing him and said, I love you first. He's like relishing in that. It's like, okay, he wants the world to know that, because he wants the world to know, oh, Selena wanted me, which is probably because of his insecurities, but he's so willing to kind of make her look kind of desperate. It doesn't bode well for, like, if he's acting like that publicly, like, what is he saying to her and doing behind closed doors? So these were just a few thoughts on the Benny and Selena romance. This was highly requested, and honestly, like, most of this stuff wasn't even really about Benny and Selena. This is more about just like life lessons that I really want to impart onto you, because a lot of these things are things I had to learn the hard way. And, you know, I hope if I can share some of these things with you, maybe you don't have to learn them the hard way, you know, or maybe if you have learned these things the hard way, you know you're not alone. So just a few thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts or any other video requests. This one was highly requested, so I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and be sure you subscribe to my channel. Honestly, any engagement on this channel really does help to boost it in the algorithm so more people can get this message. If you would like to heal your desperation so that you either can be single and enjoy being single and not be desperate for a relationship, or if you want to get into a relationship, you can heal your desperation so you can get into a healthy relationship, because good relationships don't happen with desperation, I highly recommend you check out my guided journals. There's the Recovering Pick Me Girl guided journal and the Dark Feminine Energy guided journal. They're both available on Amazon. Details in the description box below, along with links to all my social media accounts. And by the way, these journals are great stocking stuffers for this time of year. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.